Hello. Christelle Robinson-Tiedemann, aka Cree, coming to you live here on my YouTube page. And this is HD Thursday. I am a certified human design analyst and a life coach, and every week we go live here. And this used to be a segment inside of my monthly membership. And we decided to bring it live to spread the fun and expanding of human design experimentation and bringing this into our everyday lives, which is the whole freaking point. So we meet every Thursday here for a live human design education session with some added flavors jumping in. So we are closing out the Foundations of Type series tonight. And we're closing out with our very special unicorn type. I don't like how this looks. We're still figuring things out here with the move. We're closing out with the Reflector. Now, before we jump in, it was a mad dash. I literally just came out of my membership. We had a monthly meetup, and then I came straight over here. So hello to all of you that were just with me. And let me know who's here. Say hello as you come in. Let me know your type. Let me know your profile if you know your profile. And let me know if you have any reflectors in your life. I would love to know that. And I think that it's really helpful when we do these human design education sessions to pull up your chart. Actually have your chart in front of you so that you can try to kind of follow along, because there is no actual visual. And I made it really easy for you. Just scroll down to the description box, and inside of the description box is a link to my favorite engine, human design engine. You're going to need your birth date, your exact birth time. Hello. Yay! Welcome to the chat. We were just hanging out 5 minutes ago. So you need your birth time, exact birth time, your birth date, your city, and your country that you're in. Put it in, pull up your chart, and it makes this way more fun. I know that you can hear me because Jordan just said hello. And Jordan has a reflector in her life. So as you come in, say hi, let us know your type, let us know your profile, and do you have a reflector in your life? Who is the type we're talking about today? I cannot believe it has already been a month and we have made it through all of the types. So if you would love to understand the fundamentals for the types, which is the base, that is the foundation of understanding living your design, then you can check back in the playlist and see the past 3 weeks. We have done projectors now, generators and manifesting, generators and manifestors, and we're closing out with our beautiful reflectors. So before we jump into the actual meat and potatoes, I know you're sad that you missed the manifestor call. I know it would have been so lovely to have you watch it. Like go and check the replay and like let me know any parts, like how did it resonate, and if there's any questions that come up, or like add your delicious manifestor wisdom to make it make even more sense. It's best coming from the type. Like that is the ultimate. But for the reflectors that we're covering this week, it is really likely that there were less of them in your life simply because they are only 1%. So 1 out of 1 every 100 people. Yes, that's a lot of people, but generally a lot of people don't encounter, like, especially in the work that we do, especially as an analyst, that's the least likely person that you're going to do a reading for or coaching with. Okay, great. So before we jump in, so take your time, grab yourself a drink. Today we're going straight water because it's been a mad dash for Cree. We are going to start with our new segment, Self in Practice. And I'm going to share with you what's been coming up with in my personal experiment this week. And we just like really deep dove into this in our monthly call inside of the Collective Perspective membership. If you want a space to be in community doing your human design experimentation, being in community to stay conscious and intentional about the choices that you make on a daily basis throughout your life, you are into this work, you choose to be awakened into your design, into who you are, into your authenticity. I find the most rewarding place to do that is with others. And so I built a community just for that. And so if you want a space to do that with, come on into the Collective Perspective. We would love to have you. And so in Self and Practice this week, the nugget that came through for me that I think could be really, really helpful, because again, my goal is for your actual everyday life, is for this to make a difference in your life. And so what came through for me is not self-theme. I was contemplating on not self-theme because I've been experiencing more bitterness lately. I shared last week that I recently moved, and it was quite disruptive to my nervous system and the change in environment. There were so many shifts, and I found myself in a pretty extended state of melancholy, which I am, as I shared, coming out of and feeling so much better, even much more so this week than I was last week. And bitterness has been the theme coming up. And now that we've done all the types, so you can go back and you can look at this, fast forward to the segment on not self-theme for each type. We all have a not self-theme that indicates when we are not in alignment. What is the sensation, the emotional experience that we have? And it's actually quite a physical experience as well, especially for the generator frustration. What is that for your type? And what came through in my contemplation and what I was practicing myself this week is realizing the difference between I don't know if this is a word, chronicity of not self-theme and just an adjustment period. So not self-theme truly, if we are truly in our not self-theme, and the manifestor call is the perfect example of this. On the manifestor call, we talked about mechanical anger and not self-anger. We talked about when the manifestor just gets angry to kind of remove the barrier out of the way. It's like the honk on in the car. It's like the kid is about to touch the burner, the hot burner, and you tap their hand. It's not a spank, but you tap their hand away, you grab their hand away. There's that mechanical, purposeful anger of the manifestor that is not actually not self. It is self. It is actually true self. It is a strategy of theirs. And then there's not self anger. And the difference between the two, and the difference for all of us in our not self theme, is how chronic it is. It's the chronicity. It's a build up. So the manifestor anger didn't start out as rage. It started out as annoyance. It started out as irritation, and it built and it built and it built because we didn't curve. And so I have experienced letting myself, and I use the analogy of like jumping on the not self train. And so I was just jumping on the train to Bitterville and just heading all the way there, rather than noticing where I am, ringing the bell and getting off the bus, like at the first next stop. Did I get one block down and reroute? I let myself get all the way there. I kept letting myself let the momentum build and go. We can actually check ourselves. We can actually catch ourselves. We don't have to go all the way to Bitterville. We don't have to go all the way to Anger Avenue. We don't have to go all the way to Frustration Island. And today we're going to talk about reflectors. We don't have to go all the way to downtown disappointment. You could stay in Midtown and then turn around, And so this really comes down to the theme, and this is what we talked about in our monthly call in the membership today, was this whole series is called Back to Basics. And at the base, the foundation of my inner work is frequency work. We work with the gene keys inside of the monthly membership. The gene keys are all about frequency. There's a shadow frequency, there's a gift frequency, and there is the divine frequency. We can choose often what frequency we're on. And there are some times when we can't, because shit really does happen in life. Stuff happens. But what are we doing in the in-between? What are we doing in the mundane? What are we doing in the not up, not down moments? Because it's very easy to be obsessed with the high highs and the low lows and to forget everything in the middle. But the momentum of the middle collectively, cumulatively, has probably more power than what we do in the high and how we take care of ourselves in the low. And we have tools. That's another beautiful thing that we do inside of our space, is that we have tools that we use for when we're in the low. And we celebrate when we're in the high. But we can't leave this medium space just unattended. And we don't have to be so chronic. We don't have to allow our not self-theme to be a chronic state, because we can make choices to curve, reroute, reframe. And there's so many different ways that we can do that. And so that is what I was working on in my self in practice this week, was not going all the way to Bitterville, but catching myself when I'm one block down the road. I realize I got on the wrong bus. I don't want to go to Bitterville. I'd rather go to Appreciation, and I'd rather go to honest recognition. There's other destinations that I'd rather go to, and I have the ability to, because I'm not all the way there yet. And so reframe, reroute. I noticed all these uplifting things in my immediate environment, and the momentum immediately changed. And unsurprisingly, I find myself feeling a lot better. So let me know how that goes for you. Like, do you find that you just let yourself go all the way to anger avenue without attempting to reroute, attempting to catch ourselves? And what are the methods that you use to catch yourself? What are the methods that you use? Because we have different ones. It doesn't matter what you use, as long as it works for you and it's adaptive and it's in alignment. So, are we ready to jump in? As we go through this, pop in any questions that you have, any comments, anything at all. I love it when it's interactive, and I'm really excited about getting into reflectors, because they are so freaking special and they are so misunderstood. And so I really want to give them their time and their space. And what a beautiful ending, because we can really highlight the role that they play in response to all of the other types. Okay, so are we ready? Charts up, drinks ready, we're comfortable. Here we go. Reflectors, our unicorns. So reflectors are 1% of the population. So the smallest type, smallest group, and a very, very, very special group. And reflectors feel things that other types don't feel. They have a different type of sensitivity than the other types. Yes, projectors are very sensitive, but the projector sensitivity is very much focused on the one. Remember that penetrating aura? We are one-on-one people. We penetrate into the G center, the magnetic monopole of the other person, and we're able to have wisdom into the direction that they want to go. The sensitivity of the reflector is community-wise. It's they. It's not the one. It's not who are you, it's who are they. It is for the collective. It's for all of us. And the creator of human design, or it's hard to call him creator because he didn't create it, but let's say that the founder of human design, he described the types as you can either do like a triangle, triad, or you could do a square. And so let's say that the types are a square. You have generators, manifesting generators, manifestors, and projectors. The reflectors are right in the middle. That is the viewpoint of the reflector. It is an objective perspective of the other in a way that none of the other types have. In their openness, and we're going to, you're going to see what their chart looks like. Reflectors have an empathic ability, a sensitivity to literally feel and experience the other in an objective way that other types are not able to do. So they're meant to be at the center of the community. If you can think of like a metaphor or imagery of like the wise woman, like the crone, like I'm not saying they have to be old, but just that like wise one in the community that has this perspective, this wisdom, this knowingness, this ability to be at the core of the community. That is the reflector in the community of humanity. That is what reflectors do in their own communities. But they don't always understand that. They don't necessarily know that about themselves. And others don't know that about them. And so there's so much misunderstanding. There's so much kind of confusion. And there is a certain type of challenge that obviously sets a reflector up for in their everyday life. And so sometimes some of the most Jordan is laying down. Yeah. Manifestor. I am all for that rest. Sometimes, reflectors can be some of the really like damaged in a certain way, like have had a really, really, really hard time in their lives. Like that's not uncommon because they really are so different and they have a misunderstanding of their own internal experience. And if they're not like actually aware, and then others, it's the same thing. And so this objective perspective of the reflector is meant to, and here is their purpose, reflect the health of humanity. They are our mirror. So we talked about an analogy in the first session, the first foundation of type call, and it was the play analogy. And so I'll say the analogy again. If humanity was a play, in this analogy, the different types play a different role. The script writer is the manifestor. Initiation wrote the story. The director is the projector. The actors are the manifesting generator and the generator. The generator is a script actor, right? And a manifesting generator is improv actor, right? They just whole different way, responsive and like a all over the place way. And the reflector is the critic. The reflector is the critic. And what I love about this metaphor is that in our society, I mean, I live in New York City, critics are esteemed. Like that is a respectable role to have. Like that is the play. You can think it went really, really well, but what they're waiting for is to see what the critics say, Ooh, I'm so glad. Okay. Yeah. This is a great analogy, right? So I love this analogy because it shows the importance, the how you need that outside perspective. Everyone is like a part of the play in this way. And then no one has the objective view to be like, well, wasn't so great. Wasn't so great, or that was amazing. That is what reflectors offer humanity. And that is why they're meant to be at the center of their communities. And so energetically and unconsciously, projectors are highlighting back to us our own energy. When we get into the mechanics in a second, you're going to see why they literally are open. All of their centers. So if you have your chart in front of you, you're most likely seeing at least some centers colored in. The reflectors are all white. They do have gates. They have no channels though, and therefore they have no defined centers. And what does an open center do? An open center absorbs and amplifies the energy of the defined centers in front of them. And so it's a little different. Conditioning is a little bit different for the reflector, and we'll get into that as well. But as you can very clearly see in all of their openness, when a reflector is in front of you, they are mirroring you. They are now absorbing and amplifying your energy. Your energy. What more raw and direct perspective can you get? It's not the same as, okay, the projector, my aura is beaming into you. It's penetrating into you, and I feel and know things. And if you invite me, I will offer my wisdom to you that I can see for you, versus I'm standing in front of you and I am now your energy. So what you're seeing, I don't have to say anything. You're getting it. You're getting it back from the reflector in your presence. They are reflecting your energy. So you don't even have to ask, though that would be lovely if we can, and we'll get into that into communication. Ask your reflectors for their opinions on things. But what you're receiving in front of you is you. Is you. That is what the reflector offers. And so very much their purpose is in conjunction in a similar way that the purpose of the projector is about the other, right? We don't fulfill our purpose without others. The reflector's purpose is to be at the center of community and reflect its health. Okay. I hope this is all making sense. So because this is happening unconsciously and energetically, you can imagine from the reflector's experience, that's a little crazy. So I'm in front of Christelle, and I'm Christelle now. I'm in front of Jordan, and I'm Jordan now. I'm in front of whoever, and I'm this person. In front of, like, whoa, that's a lot of different energies. That's a lot of different being of different energies, right? And so they also need to remove themselves at times in order, one, to be able to experience what they are at their baseline. And we'll get into the details of that. But because they reflect the health of the environment, what the heck happens when they step into a sticky, icky, yicky environment? Oh, I'm going to ask, he's 7. You're going to ask him about, oh, yay, yes, like his opinion. Yes, please. And also, here's the thing. Also pay attention to what he's like in your environment. Like, what is he showing you that is you in that moment? Because you're going to see that shift. He might not even notice the shift as much as you do. Like he'll start to notice it over time. And also, like, please, introduce him to little things that'll be helpful for him so that he knows he's not a weirdo or crazy or fake or what is it that we used to, when you were younger, you wanted to be like, we want to be real. We want to be like, I don't want to be follow fashion, like he's going to be shifting a lot. So that's just part of their mechanics. That's just how it works. They are the ultimate of chameleons. And so because when they step into an environment, whatever the health of that environment is, they are sensitive to. A poser! You nailed it. That's it. Remember okay, not everyone is my age, but when I'm a millennial and when I was growing up, that was the big thing. You don't want to be a poser. Thank you. So they have to be able to remove themselves from toxic environments and move to healthy environments. But how many of us in our lives, let alone a reflector, gives ourselves permission to leave an environment that we believe is toxic? Or how long it even takes to recognize it's toxic and not think, oh, there's something wrong with me. For a reflector, they have to become okay with removing themselves from unhealthy environments, removing themselves from toxic environments, removing themselves from icky energetic situations. That is their job. They have come, they have assessed, they have deemed it unhealthy, and they have moved on. Like, this is what they're working towards, because they will get sick. Like, they will, if they force themselves to remain in these environments, like, it is not good for their system. And what happens if you have a filter system? So imagine that the reflector is a filter system or the mirror, and you have a filter system like your AC. In our old place, we had like a standing AC, and at a certain point the light came on and it said you need to change the filter because that air is not being cleaned anymore. It's just being recycled. And this will happen if the reflector is unable to move that toxic environment. Then what was once the filter is now just spreading that icky air. If it's a mirror and the mirror is smudged and it's smudged and it's smudged and it's smudged by not self, us, it's us. It's those of the other types with our definition. Every center that we have defined, every center that is undefined in another type, in a projector, in a generator, we have not self energy that we are emitting. And think of that not self energy as like the smudge all over the mirror. And so if the reflector does not leave and have that mirror be cleared, a true reflection is not being given. They are not fulfilling their purpose, and we are not receiving the wisdom. Okay? I hope that is helpful in helping you guys understand. So reflectors need to be in spaces with clean energy, because no matter what, energy is around and they're sampling it. All right? And so that means alone time, away from any other human aura. That means nature, animals, children. Reflectors are great. Oh my God. Children. Oh, think of the energy, the clean energy of little kids, because even when little kids are in their not self, they're the ones who have the tantrum and then they're back to normal. You know what I mean? Like, they have it and then they go. They let it go and they're clean and they're clear. Okay, I'm glad this is making sense. So time away from people, nature, animal, children, like this can be some of the healthiest stuff for reflectors. And the truth is that the aware and awake reflector will leave an environment when they feel it has reached that tipping point of, this is not good. I'm outie. And they won't give a shit about it. Like, in a reflector in their true alignment, an authentic reflector in their alignment will biggity bounce out of environments that are not healthy and not for them. And this doesn't mean like permanently. This can be like you went to, Christmas dinner with the family, and you have one of those families that are like critical and there's drama and they're blah, blah, blah. And you show your face and you say hi and you drop a bottle of wine and you kiss and you hug everybody. And halfway through the meal, you're like, all right, I'm out. I love you guys. And you peace. You spent some time, and slowly, as the shields were down, this is one of the things my human design teacher used to would give us an analogy of, is like Star Trek. and it's like the shields are up, and then it's like mom says something insulting, and it's like, okay, shields are down to 80%, 80% and holding. And then, like, you know, sister says, I don't know, starts up complaining about something, and it's like, all right, shields are down to 30% and failing. Like, and as the shield comes down, it's like, all right, I've had a wonderful evening. I love all of you. Goodbye. And excuse himself. Like, the aligned projector learns to do this unapologetically. All right. So let's get into the mechanics and make this all make sense. So when you look at the body graph and let me know any questions that are coming up. Okay. So when we look at the actual body graph, as I said, all white. You're going to see little black and red lines that define their gates, because they do have gates. It's not that they don't have definition. They just don't have defined centers. And so what that means, and making everything make sense that we said before, is that when the reflector now comes into the presence of another being, another type, whatever defined center that person has now turns on that center in the reflector. So we're going to look at a chart a little bit later to bring this all together. But let's say I step into the environment of a reflector. I have a defined G center. I have a defined throat. I have a defined spleen, and I have a defined root. So their root, their spleen, their throat, their G center turn on, and any gates that they have inside of those centers, that energy now becomes available to them. When they are not in the presence of another person, so let's say I was with my reflector friend, and now my reflector friend goes home, they live alone, and they are alone in their apartment. Those gates that were turned on when they were in my presence have now gone dormant. Okay? So you already understanding how weird this is? I'm just going to call it. Reflectors, I'm sure they don't mind. I know you know you're special and different. It's weird. It's definitely weird. And that, like, this is the experience that they have. And so you can imagine how different that person feels in front of me than in front of a different person with different definition, and then in front of a different person with different definition. But all of these different people are turning on the light in the room of that center, and that dormant energy that they have in those hanging gates becomes accessible to them. So the reflector is also meeting themselves in a way in the presence of the other. Did I just confuse the absolute bejesus out of you? So in the presence of another, those defined centers turn on inside of them, and they are able to access their dormant gate energy inside of their own body graph. Okay. So, what was I saying here? Okay. So the other really interesting thing about the reflector body, okay? Reflectors are lunar beings. They are lunar beings. All the other types are solar beings. And if you want to get into the nitty-gritty of this, like super fun, we're talking quantum physics and astrology, there is an introduction masterclass inside of my my collective perspective membership, and it really breaks it down for you in detail. But just believe me, reflectors are lunar beings, and so the movement of the moon, which moves very quickly, changes the definition in their chart. It lights up aspects of their chart. And the other types, we are solar beings. Okay, so most of the neutrinos that charge us come from the sun. Reflectors, the moon. See how special aliens they are? Like they're literally different beings. Like really, 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 they're different beings. And so what is so important for the reflector is to start tracking lunar cycles. Because guess what? Though there's inconsistency in their definition, there is consistency in the cycle of the moon. We all know that. Crescent moon, half moon, full moon happens every month, right? There is a lunar cycle that happens. And so if reflectors start, what I recommend to reflector clients in a reading, buy a journal. Actually, buy a few journals, okay? And start at the beginning of like the lunar cycle. And you're going to start journaling every single day. Just very simply. Today I felt like, today this is my experience of what was the day like? Like simply jot it down. And you're going to have them do this every day. So reflectors, I would have you do this every single day for 3 months. You can do more if you want. But 3 months is a decent amount of time. 5 months is like amazing, but 3 months is a good amount of time. And then what you're going to go and do is look back, and it might be helpful to put them in separate journals. Look back and look at the same day in the cycle. And look at what you wrote down. And start to notice that certain themes come up. Because certain aspects of yourself are illuminated in the different phases of the moon. So I think the moon, it's like every 12 hours, right? It shifts. So you're going to start, as a reflector, you're going to start seeing consistency, not on a day-to-day basis, but on a lunar cycle basis, on a cyclical basis. There is consistency to be found within your design. And that can be really, 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 really helpful. And if I use an example of a very aligned, seasoned reflector in their design, they can actually feel the shift of the moon in their body. They can start to feel it and like pick up on it like, okay, the moon has shifted. This is now accessible to me. So that has to come with tracking. So what else is interesting about the body graph of the reflector? So the solar cycles also still affect the reflector. So transits, if anybody has ever heard of transits refers to the position of our planet, and based off of the position of our planets and the earth and the sun, as the sun moves, as the earth moves around the sun, there are certain energies that are projected onto the earth that affects the entire planet. And though that energy that affects the entire planet, these are the transits that we're talking about. So this is all the astrology aspect of human design. And so based off of the transits, different parts of all of our bodies are defined. So there are some times throughout the year where I am a generator. My sacral is defined by the transits. It doesn't make me a true generator, but it does light up my sacral. And therefore, in those times, I find myself doing a whole lot more. It can be very convenient. It can also lead to burnout because I can also be much worse at knowing when enough is enough because I'm running off of this energy. But consistently, the transits come and they define us all. And so the reflector is also being defined by those solar transits. Okay, so the reflector has no definition. No defined centers, but they have defined gates. In front of another person, those centers are lit up. When they move away from that person out of their aura, those centers are not lit up, but they are lit up by the transits, and they are lit up by the lunar cycle. So very, very different than the other types. All right, now let's get into the aura. The reflector has a resistant and sampling aura. So when I say that the reflector is sensitive, I mean they're sensitive because they literally are taking on the energy of the other types and beings around them. But they are not subject to the same type of conditioning that the other types are. It is not the same as me and, my open centers being conditioned by a generator in front of me, where now my sacral is lit up and I have this energy and I don't know when enough is enough. It's not quite the same thing for the reflector. What the reflector does is try it on. It's a sample. It's like going to a buffet and having a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this. And what they have the ability to do is with their resistant aura, so it's sampling a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but also resistant, is like, if that's no good, you tried the peas and it's like, meh. It's like Teflon, it slides off. It can slide off. So their aura actually gives them the ability to not be fully consumed, but it does require some consciousness. It kind of goes back to when I said in the beginning self and practice segment, where we don't have to get on the bus all the way to Bitterville. Like, I don't have to go all the way there. Like, I can go one block off and be like, I'm getting off of this bus. I don't have to let myself chronically build the momentum of my not self theme all the way to catch myself. The reflector can overexpose themselves and kind of take on the energy of the other person and think it is them, even though it's not. But their aura actually lends them a resistance. It lends them a toughness. They are tough as freaking nails. They're tough as nails. But where conditioning comes in is that, we don't know we're supposed to be unique and different. We don't know that we're allowed to excuse ourselves when something doesn't feel good. We don't know that that's not really me. Why am I so different in front of all these different people? That's weird. What's wrong with me? And so this is where it becomes challenging, and it can be emotionally challenging if the reflector is not aware. But they actually are ingrained. And so if you probably look at the reflector child, it's not hard for them to move away or excuse themselves. It's their ability to be fluid with this aura is, they don't know it's weird. You know what I mean? And so it works naturally. It's like, taste and move on, taste and move on, taste and move on, taste and move on. Use the energy that can be helpful for me. Being around a generator type can be very convenient sometimes when I need to get some stuff done. And so the reflector sample and release, sample and release, sample and access that sacral, sample and access that head energy, sample and access that ajna, sample and access the emotion center. You know what I mean? But it's then can be released. This is the resistant and sampling nature of their aura. So that resistance is a little bit, it's not the same as the manifestor, but in terms of as a projector, me as a projector on the manifestor call, I expressed how interesting it is for me to be with my manifestor clients, because it doesn't feel the same way. And so I actually become, I I become very conscious of how much I use my intuition when I'm in front of my manifestor clients, though my intuition is still accessible to me. It's just I don't feel it in the same way. It's the same thing with the reflector. They're not as readable. They're not readable. I mean, they're not readable. Why? Because it's me. In front of me, they're me. You know what I mean? So there is that resistance of the aura because it is literally taking on this essence, but they also have the ability to like detach. Okay? And so they can't be read the same way like manifestors can't. But rather than the heavy and denseness of the aura of the manifestor, closed, repelling, right? Like a sponge, a soaked up sponge where the water is dripping out the edge. There's no more room for water to come in. Instead of that density, the reflector aura feels light. It feels light, but it's still not readable because it's now you. And so I like to think of it like Mystique. I love X-Men. I love like superhero characters. But Mystique in X-Men, she can take on the image of anybody that she sees. So she can like clone, like become that person. And so for the reflector, it's kind of like Mystique. Like their aura touches another person and they try it on. It's like her skin is actually blue. Mystique's skin is blue, but then she becomes a person and you see like the scales like fold into the person. It's like that. The aura touches the other person and it's like Christelle. They're testing the Christelle skin. Just trying it on. And it kind of mimics the other type. It mimics the other design. But it is not the other design at the same time. Okay? Is this confusing? Is this making sense? Are you guys getting it? So we're going to move on to their strategy. So the strategy, I kind of already touched on it. Because the reflector is a lunar being, their strategy is to wait out the lunar cycle in order to see themselves, in order to see themselves through those lunar phases and start to learn their consistency, they need to wait out the lunar cycle. Yeah, it's freaking fascinating. It actually is so fascinating. And because of being in the human design community, I have the joy of interacting with more reflectors than I have in like my regular life. They are absolutely fascinating. Hearing about this experience from the inside, and I'll share a little bit of that with you guys, what like from the mouth of the reflector, it is actually absolutely fascinating. And they do see themselves a little bit like aliens. Like they think we're crazy. They're like, you guys are a mess. But like, seriously, if you genuinely think about it, think of the state of the world right now. I mean, think of the state of the world at any time, but like for us, like it is particularly alarming. Certain things that are happening in the world at this day and age and time. And I live in the United States, so I won't say anything else, but weird times. And for the reflector, sampling fear, perpetual fear think of COVID. Sampling perpetual fear, terror, distress, distraught. Like if that is what the other types are emitting, most people are emitting, this is what they have to sample. That's not great. You know what I mean? And it can be difficult in a certain time when something is like global and mass to take themselves away and take themselves out of that energy. But this is why it's so important for reflectors to have it's so important, and not in the same way that it is for other types. For manifestors, for projectors, especially projectors, we need a lot of alone time to not penetrate. It's very exhausting to constantly be penetrating the other. is exhausting to be constantly sampling icky energy, and in certain times in our world, that's going to be amplified. So it really is very, very, very fascinating, and it can create that kind of perspective for the reflector looking at the other humans, because they have to mirror it. And it's not something that they have choice over, but it's something that they can have awareness over, but it is still their physical experience, right? So really, really strong inner work, I believe, is necessary for the reflector, and not the inner work in terms of like, I'm not saying like necessarily healing work, but yes, that is very, very, very helpful. But a strong sense of awareness and commitment to a sense of awareness, and being able to translate their sensitivity is going to be so important, or they will be taken for a ride, and we don't choose the environment that we're born into, right? Okay. So the strategy of the reflector is to wait out, is time. It really is time. And that amount of time is the lunar cycle, so that you can see each quarter, right? That aspect of you, the you that you are in the first quarter, the second quarter, the third, the you that you are throughout these 28 days, to see. And this is for massive decisions, not like, and again, this is not authority, this is strategy. So it's like, it is big and small things, but they don't need to wait 28 days to brush their teeth. That's gross and weird. It's not like that. The same way that the projector doesn't need to wait for an invitation to brush their teeth or eat dinner. This is not what I'm talking about. But in terms of like weighing out how they feel about something in general, like even as simple as like, do you want to go to that event? They need time. They need time, because the version of that they are today, 2 days from now, that version of them, a little bit similar to like an emotional authority who's in a wave, like that version of them may not be interested. So they need time to be able to move through the cycle, and they also need to sample energy through them. So in that lunar cycle, they're sampling other people's energy. They're moving through transits. They're moving through the lunar shifts. There's a lot to sample in that time, to then sift through and see what is true, what is theirs, what is for them. And soundboarding is also a very helpful aspect of a strategy for a reflector. And so this can be something that's really, really helpful to start practicing if there's reflector kids in your life, because the truth is we don't always have 28 days, do we? Mind you, it is also very, very true that in general, reflectors, if there are environments and people in your life that are constantly rushing you through things, it's not for you. That environment's not for you. Those people are not for you. And it's the same thing with an emotional authority. Take your time to make your decisions, because what is for you allows you that time. And truly, they just want you more. When you take the time, the desire just grows. You and your alignment taking your time, the desire for you just grows. So do that. But there are certain things in life that it is really genuinely true that you can't take all that time, right? So it can't always be 28 days. So what can be really, really helpful is sampling other people's energy through soundboarding. And this isn't the same soundboarding of a mental projector. And that's not something that we've done in HD Thursday around. We haven't touched on authorities yet, but I'll just say, and for all, my mental projectors out there, they're aware of this, but soundboarding is literally like hearing your own truth through another person, right? So they talking things out with people so that you can find what is true, whether it's through the actual resonance of the voice, like what it sounds like, what the vibration of what you're hearing, or like it's ringing true inside of your body. You know what I mean? That is the soundboarding for the other types. But for the reflector, the soundboarding that they're doing is they're literally trying on that energy. So they're coming and sampling Kree's energy. So now G center, root, throat, trying on accessing those gates within them and seeing how they feel, right? So in that moment in front of me, they're splenic. This is a splenic individual. What intuitions come through about this thing? And then they can be in front of another person and kind of like, what do they feel their body moving towards? So there's a way to sample through soundboarding, talking things out with other people. They can kind of borrow that person's energy and see how that idea feels, that thing feels, whatever it is that they want to move towards. Okay. Is that making sense in terms of the strategy for the reflector? It's very, very different than the other types. It really is about taking time, and ultimately, if you can move through a lunar cycle, that is excellent. But it's a sampling. It's the bottom line is they need time to sample different energies and see what fits. Yes. Okay. Excellent. They need time and people, right? The right people to see what fits for them. Okay. A tip for my reflectors. Take space first thing in the morning before you've taken on any energy from the people in your life, from your job, from anywhere, from out in the world. Take space first thing in the morning and feel into the energy of the day. Because remember, we said you're sampling everything. The animals, the energy of the animals, the energy of the air, the energy of the trees, like everything is being sampled. And so sample the day on your own. The transits, how it feels, the environment. First thing in the morning, start making that a practice for yourself, that you spend a little bit of time alone to sample the energy of the day and then first go into the day. It's almost like know who I am at base before I go out and start sampling all these other energies. That is a very helpful practice for the reflector. And other types, you can actually get an understanding of what this feels like if you have a little bit. This is not what it feels like. Please don't think that I'm saying that you feel like a reflector. You don't, and they'll tell you you don't. But if you have an open G center, okay, if you have an undefined G center, you know a little bit about what I mean. So my mom has an undefined G center. One of my best friends has an undefined G center. I have clients with undefined G centers. My husband has an undefined G center. And all of these individuals express the same thing, and I've witnessed it in person. So one of the things that happened all the time growing up is we would go out as a family, we'd go to a restaurant, we'd walk into the restaurant, and my mom would just be like, nope, she's not a generator. So I wasn't a generator. My mom's a projector. She's like, oh no, we're not eating her. And we're like, what? Why? She's like, I don't like it. And her thing would often be smells. And so she'd be like, I don't like how it smells. No one else smells a single thing. And I have like a very strong smeller. So it's a frequency that she's picking up on from her open G. So the open G, which is the center of direction, it's the center of love, it's the center of identity. When someone with an open G walks into that environment, they are environmentally feeling their openness is absorbing. Remember, open centers absorb and amplify the energy around them. They are absorbing and amplifying the identity, the love. They're basically feeling the love in the room. This is what an open G center is. It's like, this doesn't feel like love. They don't know that that's what they're doing, but it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. This is the same experience that the reflector is having times 1,000, But even the open G can feel just like this environment is ick. It's very similar for the reflector. And so it's really important to be able to listen to that. Yeah. It's really, really important to listen to that. So when my husband and I go on date night, we can pick a place, but we will choose the place by his energy. So I know, because I know I'm not as sensitive to him. I have a defined G. And so we can go into the place and we can like have seen it on Google Maps and think it's great and get there. And he's like, and I can feel it immediately. We walk in and like his whole body stiffens up. And I'm like, you hate it. I'm like, it doesn't feel right, right? And he's like, yeah, I don't. And his is quite visual. My mom's with smell, but his is quite visual. It's like the lighting, the like something about the energetic flow just doesn't jive. And so we'll go somewhere else. And so notice that about if you have a friend like that and you don't know what their chart is, I guarantee they have an open G. Okay. So true self theme and not self theme. All right. The not self theme of the reflector is disappointment. And just like in the beginning of our live tonight, we talked about the chronicity of not self theme versus just experiencing, a little brief nip. Disappointment in life is to be expected. Okay. Like there's no such thing as not experiencing disappointment. I don't care what type you are. So there is an aspect of life that involves disappointment, but the reflector, if you think about it from the perspective of, I am sampling energies. I am moving into a space just like waiting to see what does this feel like. And it's like that doesn't feel good. There can be this space doesn't feel good. The same way that we walk into a restaurant and my mom's like, no, and we're leaving. That disappointment is like I don't like it here. I don't like how this feels. I don't like how that group of people's energy feels. I don't like how that environment feels. And you leave. And you take yourself on your way, right? So there's it let you know it's not the right environment, and then you leave. And then there's I am chronically in an environment that sucks. And then there's a chronic disappointment that's being experienced. That's like the true not self disappointment. Because on the other end of the spectrum, the true self theme, the signature for the reflector is surprise. And I actually think it is the most beautiful of the true self themes, of the signatures. Because there's something that I can really feel and see. Like like the way that I see pictures in my mind. If your aura is to sample, and you are this open, sensitive being that takes on the energy that of the environment that you're in, that feeling of like a reflector walking into a space and it feels delicious. And it's like, oh, that's nice. Oh, I like that. Oh, that feels good. Oh, that's yummy. Yes, that's great. Oh, that's love. Like, what a beautiful way to walk through life. There's something childlike about it. I don't know, but there's something so lovely and alive about that. Reflectors they need to be surprised. Like they need to feel the deliciousness of a healthy environment, of a yummy environment, of a good energy, of healthy energy, of your good energy, of other people's good energy. Like, what it feels like to be around that person that's like always uplifting, or like there's some person where you're just like, I just love your face. Your face just makes me feel happy. Or like, you just put me in a good mood. Like people like that, right? And that feeling that comes over you in that presence, like, this is like the surprise that the reflector is getting as they sample good energies. It's also about like novelty and new, because the thing is that nothing is consistent in life. No one is consistent in life. So there's always going to be this shifting energy of the reflector as they sample the community, as they sample and go into different spaces, as they go into their own space and then come back into a space with other people. And that, like, if it's constantly the same, it's almost like you're not living out your purpose. Your purpose is to reflect. You want to reflect new things. And so oftentimes, reflectors, like literally in life, are people that tend to travel oftentimes. And oftentimes they're looking for their right place, like their ultimate right place that's full of surprise and it's full of delicious energy. But it's important for the reflector to be able to move to the place that feels good. And it's also really important for them to have surprise as a regular experience in their life, just like everyone else's true self theme. So disappointment is kind of like synonymous with unaliveness, stagnance, withering, wilted, unexcited, like not new, not new. And so one of the things that reflectors you can do for yourself to kind of install surprise into your life is to, like, when you have something that's coming up, or when you know what's actually amazing to do the 3-month journal. Track your lunar cycle for 3 months, right? And write down after the 3 months, and you look back and you found the consistent aspects throughout your lunar cycle. Go into your calendar and literally write little tidbits for yourself for what's upcoming. Like this part of the month, it's great for me to do this. Like this is a great time for me to run, to go running, or try out a new this, or like put little tidbits of throughout the upcoming month in your calendar for what is coming up for yourself. So that and then don't look at it, like go, like put it through, and you can put it ahead, like months ahead, and then go back to your today in your calendar. And then when you get to that actual place in the calendar and you see what's upcoming or what's energetically available to you, or what is good for you to do at this time of the month, it's like, ooh, I forgot about that. Oh yeah. Ooh, I get to maybe I should try. This is a time when I feel a lot more energetic. So I'm going to try that new bowling alley with some friends on the weekend. Like you can let your own cycle surprise you, and set yourself up for those kind of surprises. Have the people in your life, like let them know how they can surprise you in ways that they can surprise you. But there are like small aspects, the same way that I like to set myself up for success in certain ways. Like, for example, when I do a workout in the morning before I go to work, I feel bloody successful right at the start of my day. That was my own installation of success. And then I get to have other successes throughout the day that I didn't necessarily plan. But reflectors, you can help yourself set yourself up for a surprise. And then there's also like the sampling energy of like, being surprised, which is the most delicious thing for the reflector. This all makes sense, right? Isn't it so amazing the way that it all makes sense together? Like incredible. Just it literally blows my mind. I'm so obsessed with it. Like how perfect, like the type that is here to reflect to humanity their health. The most beautiful thing for them to experience is to sample that energy and be delighted by it, And then how dreary can you imagine that experience is to sample that energy and be disappointed by it, to be like, ugh, by it. But it's very important, my reflectors, for you to not jump on the bus to downtown disappointment, because there is a difference of like, ugh, this is not what I expected. Okay, I leave. There is surprise elsewhere. This whole wide world, come on, right? Surprise is available. But how easy is it to fall into the chronic momentum of, ugh, everything is disappointing. Their energy sucks. Their energy sucks. Their energy sucks. That place's energy sucks. Look at what's happening in the world. Like this is where it's so important for us to make choice in the momentum that we build, because you can find yourself all the way down in the depths of disappointment if you truly look for it, right? Because it really is around, humans will always be humans, and there will always be icky energy, but there will always be beautiful energy. So allowing yourself the flexibility to migrate where you need to go. And that doesn't just mean, to another town, but like even within your own environment, having nature, having animals in your life, having accessible to yourself the ability to find surprise, and being very, 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 very unapologetic with removing yourself from environments that aren't healthy. Okay. Communication with the reflector. You ready to be blown away? You talk to the reflector the way that you would want to be spoken to, because in your presence, they're like you. So when I am with a reflector, I communicate the way I communicate with a projector. If you're a manifestor, you will communicate the way that you would communicate with a manifestor, which is informing. As a projector, it's all about like, what do you know? Tell me more. Like inviting them into sharing the perspective, open-ended questions. If you're a generator in front of a reflector, you're giving them choices. Yes, no questions. Or Isn't that effing freaking cool? How cool is that? So the reflector's communication strategy is different depending on the energy they are sampling. All right? Super helpful for the reflector to know themselves. And when you went back, if we go back to strategy, remember when I said how it's helpful for the reflector to also soundboard, because realistically in life, we don't always have 28 days. This is how this can go. So testing out that free flowing, depending on who the type that they're in front of, they have a different type of communication style to sample. Now, for my non-reflector types, when you are communicating with a reflector, there are some things that you can do that is very, very loving. And the same way that we want to recognize our projectors, the same way that we don't want to tell our manifestors what to do. With your reflectors, your wise ones, your barometers of the temperature of the energy of humanity, there are ways that you can recognize their purpose. And honor their uniqueness. And so you want to say things like, if you have reflectors in your life, to your 7-year-old reflector nephew, take as much time as you need. Don't rush them. Don't rush them to answer you. I value your opinion. Ask them what their opinion is. When they're reflecting to you something that you don't love, because they literally cannot help it, because remember, it's not the projector, it's not the waiting for the invitation, it's not the I felt that, I know that, I pretty much know what you want to know, but I'm not going to say it until you ask it of me. It's not that same. It's they literally have sampled the energy. It's here. It's coming out because it's there. So saying things like, I really didn't want to hear that, but obviously I needed to. When you are confronted with the truth in front of you, because it's being reflected to you, because that's their job. So when you are in front of a reflector and you find yourself feeling your not self theme coming up hot and strong, it's yours, baby. That's your anger. That's your bitterness. So having our own self-awareness to know that we are being reflected our own energy. So thank you. I really didn't want to hear that, but obviously I needed to. Thank you for sharing that with me. Asking things like the same way that when I go out with my mom, or when I'm out to dinner with my husband, and I ask, like, or I can literally feel it. It's like, you don't like this spot, right? ask your reflectors, I recognize that you are more sensitive to me than me. What do you feel? Ask them what they feel. And it's also helpful for the reflector children to start naming, voicing, paying attention to their bodies, what they feel, rather than I feel bad a lot. Like, can you imagine internalizing I feel bad a lot? But it's rather than like, oh, I felt bad here. I felt bad with them. It's an important distinction, right? So start putting language to that. And if you with your friends, like not forcing them to be in environments that they don't feel good in. And you're going to be able to spend more time with them if you do that, right? And saying things like, you don't have to be anywhere that feels bad or yucky. What a beautiful gift to offer your reflectors, right? And if you want to leave, you can leave. Or if you want to leave, we can leave. My friends and I, when we were back in my clubbing days, we used to have a rule that at any point, if anybody wants to go, we all go. It wasn't even a question. It wasn't like, oh, I want to stay on like this place. I didn't know anything about human design, but look at us. Look at us being sensitive to the open G's in the group and the reflectors in the group. There were no reflectors in the group, but we were open. It was like, that was the rule. Everybody wants to stay or we go. That's it, because there's always another environment, right? There's always somewhere else that you can go. And exercise patience and understanding during their fluctuating phases. Remember, they are different depending on the time of the month. So all my women out there, you know what that's like, right? You know what that's like. So can we be understanding? Can we be patient? And we know that we are the most magnetic beings. It makes sense. The family he chose now, he gets to sample all the energy. Projector mom, generator dad, manifestor brother. Shut the F up. Wow, what a lucky kid. What a lucky family. Wow. Yeah, I really, really hope that, definitely help them to understand what an amazing gift that they have, and let him start to recognize, what does it feel like around mom? What does it feel like around dad? What does it feel like around brother? And he can even start being strategic about it. You got some like heavy duty work to do? Dad, let's go. Use that sacral, man. You want to deep dive into something philosophical? You want to think about something? Mom, you want to initiate things? Hey, bro, let's go. Like, lucky freaking kid. I'm trying to teach projector. Okay, amazing, amazing, amazing. Oh, this is why I love this work and how it's so helpful for parents with kids. Like, we can raise kids understanding their design. There are so many reflector people out there, and you can look up some really, really beautiful reflector stories. Some of the greatest coaches and teachers I've encountered have been reflectors, but sharing their stories, they often have a really difficult time. A lot of mental health issues in the like depression area, suicidality area, a lot of feelings of like, I don't know who the heck I am, and actually getting physically ill from staying in environments that aren't good for them. No defined ego or splenic centers. The mom? Oh, no one. Wow, interesting. Interesting. Okay, so bringing this all together. Let me show you. Let's look at it. We're just going to look at it briefly. Let me show you guys what a reflector chart looks like. I hope you guys can see, because I can't see you. So do you see what I mean? That it's all white. None of the centers are defined, but they have gates. 64, 24, 4, 7, 1, 13. These are all genetic characteristics. These are all personality traits. But the thing is that they're not they're dormant. They're not necessarily accessible until that person is defined. So when this person is in front of me, they all of a sudden have 7 access to gate their G center gates. They have access to all of these gates in the root. I can't write on this for some reason. It's so hard. This person actually will become splenic because they'll have their spleen turned on. And so because I have 28, they'll have this full channel, the channel of struggle. So all of these aspects of their personality will become available to them when they are in the presence of a person who has that defined center. This reflector, just like we talked about last week, we looked at a manifestor chart. This reflector has a completely open throat. It's the only center that they don't have any definition in. So this is the only center where they will completely chameleon into the energy of the defined throat in front of them. So when this person is in my presence, they will have this 8-1 channel in their throat. And so now they will have the channel of inspiration. I have the channel of inspiration. It's why I speak in the passionate way that I speak and consistently speak in this way. It's why the more I get interested in it, I get louder and louder. And it's the channel of a weirdo. So we're quite unique in our expression as well. That is the energy that person will get to sample at that time, which can be really cool if you're working on a creative project or something like that. Okay. So this is what when this person is by themselves, though, what will be accessible to them will depend on the lunar cycle, and it will depend on the global transits at the time. And I can't pull up a transit chart for you guys to see. I don't know which ones are free so that you could see what that looks like what an actual transit chart is. But I know my mechanics, if you're interested in seeing what the transits look like for yourself, my mechanics, Jovian archives, they all have transit accessibility. I'm just not sure if it's free, and I can't pull up a chart for you without showing people's names, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to show anybody's personal information. And so this person right now, I don't know what the transits are lighting up, but there are certain aspects of their chart that's going to be lit up right now simply because of the transits. And so they will have consistent access to that energy. And so here's where this gets really, really interesting. Here's where this gets really, really interesting. And this is like sharing from the actual reflectors in my life, okay, their experience. A couple weeks ago, the transits were lighting up the emotional center of everybody. Shocker, shocker, shocker. 3 weeks ago, I was in the midst of feeling very, very down. Didn't check the transits. Very, very interesting. I was probably going through emotional waves, right? Because at that time, I'm also defined in my emotions. So for some reflectors that I was speaking to at that time, if you're not aware of the transits that are going on, this woman in particular she was literally bawling her eyes, and she's like, I don't understand what's going on. I'm so upset. I'm so sad. She was just feeling so freaking down because consistently for like 3 weeks, because of what was defined in her emotional center, she all of a sudden had all this access to this emotional energy inside of her as she's being lit up by the transits, which is quite a stark difference from her regular experience, right? And so if you're not aware, then it just feels like I never know what's coming at me. One day I'm this and one day I'm that. And what she was saying is that I can't seem to finish anything. I start a movie, I don't finish it. I started a puzzle. I put in half the puzzle and then I walked away and I can't finish anything. And then she was upset and crying about that. So there's like an emotional wave on top of it. But here's the thing. There's nothing wrong. Nothing has gone wrong. A mistake hasn't been made. But the way that we are conditioned by society is like, you must complete everything. There are plenty of designs that aren't meant to complete everything, right? But the inconsistency of the reflector energy. So when I have, let's say that this part of the lunar cycle, I have energy to do this, and then it goes and I'm done. I don't have that energy. That energy isn't there. It's just simply not there. Nothing has gone wrong. It's just their energy has changed. And so there are strategies to employ. And so one of the things that was discussed and suggested in this discussion with reflectors was find a local coffee shop. Go shopping for like a local spot somewhere in your town that feels nice to you, that the sample of that energy feels good. There's people moving through. It's not that you're going to hang out with someone, but it's a place that is comfortable and feels good to you that you can consistently go to. You can literally go to this coffee shop every single day. And if there's an aspect of work that you need to do, or if there's something that you want to complete, you have multiple different energies to sample in order to do that. So you go to this place, you get yourself a coffee or maybe just water, keep the budget low, whatever it is, and you can sit and sample various enough energies to have access to different parts of your chart and complete whatever it is that you want to do. Do you see how freaking cool that is? So nothing was wrong with her. It's just she doesn't have consistent energy. I also don't have consistent energy. It's not the same inconsistency, but we tell ourselves these stories about what we're supposed to be like, and it can make you feel like there's something drastically wrong with you. But it's not that something was drastically wrong with you. And there are some teachers in human design that call the reflector the environmental one. You need a different environment. Environment and reflector is synonymous, like they go hand in hand. Okay? Super important to track the transits. This is what reflectors will tell you. If you really want to understand your own energy, start tracking the transits. Okay? And you can be defined in something for quite a bit of time. How helpful is it to know that in order to plan what it is that you have to do? This can be the difference between like productivity, not productivity, because it's not like reflectors don't have regular jobs, like you want to get stuff done. You're actually working with the energies of the earth. Okay. And one of the things that really blew my mind, that a reflector was sharing that I thought was such a beautiful tip is she said, I love to remind myself, especially in times like right now, wars are breaking out, people are afraid. Every time I turn on the news, I'm seeing horrific, horrendous things. I am sampling and absorbing as open centers do. I am amplifying the energy and the fear of the people around me. But because I know that I'm amplifying it, I also remind myself that they're probably not quite as scared as I think they are. It's the same way that when I have an open emotional center, when someone is in an emotional wave and I'm in their presence and I'm feeling it super intensely, they might be feeling a 5. I'm feeling a freaking 10 because I'm amplifying their experience. Their actual experience is not as intense as how it feels in my body. That is what the open center does. And so this very wise reflector, she's like, I'm experiencing an amplification of the energy. Yes, people are afraid. Yes, it's uncomfortable. But it helps her because she genuinely cares. She also has her incarnation cross is the incarnation cross, the loved one. And so she cares about people. She cares about the state of the world. She cares about humanity. But she also is wise enough to know that it's not quite as intense as I'm feeling it. It's not quite as intense as I think it is because I am amplifying. And so this is when you take the wisdom of taking space and also using the power of your own ability to reframe and understand what is happening in your body. OMG, yes, my son's emo waves. Oh boy. Yeah. Yeah, we feel it way more than they do. Way more intensely. We're uncomfortable and they're fine. Like it doesn't even bother them that much, you know? Obviously, people can be in distress in an emotional wave, but the way that we're distressed by it, they're like, it's done, and then they moved on, and we're still like traumatized by the experience. You know? It's well understood in human design that the ones that hold grudges are the non-defined emotional centers. The solar plexus defined ones, we're the ones who hold grudges more, because it's like, remember when you were in an emotional wave and you got super mad at me and you yelled at me, and they're like, that was last week. Fine now. I'm over it. They're like, I'm not. So I thought that was some beautiful wisdom from a reflector, is like realizing I am amplifying. And she also had this saying that people will be people, you know, people will be people. And I love that, because remember that train, getting on the disappointment train. We don't have to run ourselves all the way down. People will be people, but there are also beautiful people. So moving on to the next person, shifting my environment. Now, the final thing that I want to share that is, and so also remember, it's super important who you're around, reflectors. You are sampling not just the environment, you're sampling people's energy. Who is around you? When you are all of a sudden having a challenging time, what are the people around you fearing? What's going on with them? Like, what's going on with the people in your environment? Because probably something's up, you know? So if you find yourself all of a sudden feeling completely out of whack, then it's like something's going on with those in your environment. So what's going on with the people around you? And in general, are you around people who are healthy? You know, healthy, doing some self-reflection, personal reflection. Like it is beneficial to be very choosy about those who you are going to be exposing yourself to and sampling their energy all the time, because this is your set point. This is your energetic set point. Your set point are the people in your environment. So it's very, very important to be choosy about this. And one of the things that I think is that it's going to be helpful for the reflector to do their own inner work, healing work around wounds, like childhood wounds, trauma, if they've ever experienced trauma. Why? Because if you are sampling energy all the time and you can't choose that, you're going to be doing that anyways. Imagine the experience of somebody sampling an energy, and that energy resonates, reminds, feels like an energy you've already experienced in your life. It can be very confusing to not think it's you, to not think it's your stuff coming up, to not be completely put into a fight or flight state because now you're triggered. Now you're maybe in like a PTSD experience, but it's so important to actually have enough wisdom to be able to recognize the energy that you're sampling as not your own. But you're not going to be able to do that if there are a lot of landmines within you that can be triggered. Right? Does that make sense? It's almost like, in order for the filter to work best on both ends, it's going to be helpful to have as clean a possible slate on the inside. And so I don't mean that people like get rid of your problems. It's not that. Oftentimes it's simply awareness, you know, having an understanding of what are the emotional landmines within you from your own lived experience. Our design does not tell us our life experience, right? Our design doesn't tell us our trauma. It tells us our genetic tendencies. But no one can tell you your life experience. You can't look at someone's chart and know what they've lived through. That's not something. So it's really helpful for the reflector to work through your stuff so that you are not taking on unhealthy energies and assuming they're your own because you've got your own wounding going on that has been triggered. Let me know any questions that are coming up. Let me check my notes and see if there's anything I missed, because I was on a tangent. I think that's everything. I think we really beautifully covered the reflector. Yeah, so summary, reflectors, taking the time, super, super important. Oh, this is the last thing that I want to say. This is what was super important. Okay. A common theme that comes up for the reflector, and this blew my mind. So non-reflectors, this is also going to surprise you. So, I can't believe I forgot. Yes, the reflector needs to be on their own. We understand why, right? Oh, I'm so glad that was super helpful. Yes, the reflector, this is also super helpful, especially this is going to be helpful for children. Yes, the reflector needs to be alone in order to know what is me at baseline, like what is just me before I'm sampling, right? But just as this woman that was in my group who was sharing that I can't complete anything, it's like, this is, it's so, I feel like so out of sorts because I just don't know what's wrong with me. Why am I not completing anything? At the same time, as it is very important for the reflector to have alone time, not be sampling, be in their own energy, clean the lens, clean the filter, it is also important for the reflector to be in front of people, or else they cannot access their own design. The aspects of themselves lay dormant until in the energy of others. So one of the things that a lot of reflectors experience is loneliness, like craving not having a community. If a reflector is too isolated, it feels like almost like nothing. Like it feels like not having access to energy. It's not like me as a projector, a manifester, where we do too much, we've gone too far, or not even gone too far. We've used our energy supplies for the day and we need rest. We need to recuperate. We need space. We need a nap. We need downtime. I need to lie down. We need to do what we have to do. And when we're doing that, we are settling into our own definition. I'm still settling into my defined root, my defined gene, my splenic awareness. I'm settling into that. When the reflector takes their rest in their space, they're settling into nothing. Like they're settling into a blank slate other than what the transits are turning on. And so to access, but it's still them. So if you look at the reflector chart, this is still them. This person is still a gate 64. This person is still a gate 24. This person is still a 43. And so, for example, this person with the 24, the ruminator, this is like this ability to think, oh my God, the ideas that come from the 24, just amazing ideas that they'll go over and over and over and over again, and brilliant things will come through. That person doesn't have access to that part of themselves until they're defined by an ajna, or they're defined by a head that has a gate 61, and then they'll have that full channel, or we're both defined by somebody who has a defined ajna. I have a gate 61, and all three of us together in that space, now they have this channel plus access to their gate 4 and the 43. Do you see what I'm saying? They actually need to be around other people to access their own energy through the sampling process. And so it is also something that's important to the reflector to have a community. It's not that they're just reflecting for us, which they are, that is their ultimate purpose, but they're also accessing their own energy. They're also being surprised. They're also sampling energy and getting to be surprised by their own self, surprised by what's turned on inside of them. That's their signature. That's their true self theme. And so a reflector needs a community. They need a community who respects that they need space. They need a community that's healthy. They need people. Reflectors need people in their life. And so it is really important, my reflectors, to prioritize finding your right community one way or another. If that's going to a cafe because you do find yourself, let's say you just moved to a new city, a new town, and you don't know a lot of people, shop for that cafe right away. Find that spot that you can stop in every day and plop down in and sample different energies to access yourself. And then go and be alone and feel, what's not other people, and journal and be around the trees and get a dog. Doesn't have to be a dog, but you know what I mean? Like, get another energy to sample in your environment, even a lovely energy like a dog. Well, the same woman that was I was talking about earlier, she's getting a fish. But super important to understand, reflector and not reflector, they also need people. You also need people to be able to sample energy and access your own energy. And then you also need to be alone in order to not be sampling, and also to make sure that you're in a healthy environment. But ultimately, being exposed to a beautiful community is the way for a reflector to truly thrive. Okay, I'm done. This was a long one. Plants. Yes. Thank you, Jordan. Plants. I'm dead serious. Plants. Yes. Oh my God, you're brilliant. Plants. That reflectors have told me themselves, oh my gosh, like plants all over the apartment. I have the opposite of a green thumb. And so I am not that person, but I know people with green thumbs, and they talk to their plants, and their plants thrive and respond, and that's the same energy that they're sampling. It is true. This is why a lot of reflectors love hiking, going into the forest, living in the forest, close to a town, but because the energy of plants. Yes. All living things have energy to be sampled. And so it is so helpful, my reflectors, to surround yourself with good, clean, healthy energy. Even like water, the energy of water, living water. So helpful, and a really beautiful community. And learn to, if there's something that you really want to work on in a coaching environment, in a coaching relationship, it's learn how to be able to give yourself permission. And it is innate to you, because it's the conditioning, it's removing the conditioning. Underneath all that, you were given that unapologetic aura. You were given the aura to sample and be resistant. You were given the power to be Teflon and let that shit slide off. And so one major thing for reflectors to work on is to be able to give yourself permission to be unapologetic about the environment that you need to set that up for yourself. Take the space that you need, find your right people, move to your right environment. I hope that this was so helpful. This has been so fun, this series. I can't believe it's done. I don't know what we're going to come back with next week, but feel free to drop in any ideas or things that you're interested in that we can cover as topics for HD Thursday. Look back on the other type sessions and bring it all together. I find it so helpful to understand all types. I understood myself better when I actually understood the other types. And you can see how with the reflector, how amazing that is. Authority, you got it. All right, let's do authority. And there's a lot to cover. That's brilliant. Let's do authority. I love that. And so like with Jordan's little reflector in her life, like having those different types of sample in his own family, how important is it to understand the other types? You know, it really put my own purpose and where I fit into the world, my role in the world, when I understood the other types. So it is so beautiful, whatever type you are, to understand the other ones, because you appreciate your own, but you also learn how to be a part of the whole, and you learn how to be helpful and a positive influence and cooperative with the other types while giving yourself permission to be yourself. I love you guys. This was so much fun. Thank you for hanging out with me. It's so fun when there's people to hang out with and have your comments and your interactions. Let me know, like, if you go into your life and any of this was helpful for you, like with the generators, the manifestors, the projectors in your life, the reflectors in your life, let me know. I would love to know. So come back in the comments and share that it was helpful, or anything else that you learned. And again, if you want a space to be able to really live this stuff, bring it to the forefront and make an actual real difference in your life, come on into the collective perspective. We would love to have you. I will see you next week, and have a wonderful rest of your Thursday evening and your weekend ahead. Love you, Jordan.